Hey everybody, it's Lainey, and I am here today to give you a little mini session about how to handle conflict with your kids. I know that being cooped up with them is really challenging for most of us. And if you happen to be in the minority of people who are just sailing through this moment in time, then more power to you. Maybe I'll call you for parent coaching myself. But what I want you to know is I'm going to talk to you about the 5 steps for what you need to do when conflict happens. And before I even get into the 5 steps, I want to invite you to take a necessary pre-step, right? The first thing that you're going to really need to do before you even start managing conflict with your kids is going to be to get clear with yourself about where you stand in conflict. What are your beliefs about conflict? What do you have as your self-talk when conflict comes up in your home? What, like when you see your kids engaging in conflict, what do you think to yourself? What's going through your mind? Are you thinking, here we go again? Or this is a nightmare, or please get me out of here. I wish I could quit. Or are you thinking, oh, this is something we need to settle. We got to get to the root of this. We got to figure this out. Like, where are you in that story? If you have a story around conflict, where are you in how you want to respond to it? Do you tend to want to hide and go hide in a closet and let them work it out themselves? Or are you somebody who wants to jump in and fix it and put an end to it? There's no right or wrong answer here. There's really just the question of how do you respond as your default to conflict when you're witnessing it or you're hearing it. And all of us have patterns around that based on what our early experience was in our first families, usually around conflict, what that meant, what it didn't mean. Maybe there was a lot of conflict in our home and it was loud and it was scary, or maybe we had explosive parents and they got over it and they kissed and made up in front of us. Or maybe there was this underlying sense of conflict and it was tense, but nobody really talked about it and didn't know why. Any of those could be true, and there's none that's like better or worse than the other. They just imprint on us from an early age. So it's really important to get clear about where you stand when it comes to conflict. So just ask yourself that before we even begin. And then what I want to do is walk you through the 5 steps that I have for how to actually manage conflict with your kids. And if you have questions, you can put them in the notes below and I can get to them. I'd be happy to. I know that every situation is different, and what I'm going to give you here as an approach will help you have a roadmap, but everybody's family is different. And I say this all the time, there's not one right way to parent. Everybody has their own way to parent, and I want it to be right for you. I just want us to be all working from the best information that we have available to us today. But of course, that's going to sound different in your family than it's going to sound in my family. It's going to look different in your family than it's going to look in my family. Doesn't sound better or worse. One isn't good, one isn't bad. It's really just different, and I want to embrace that. So when conflict arises, and conflict is inevitable, conflict will happen. You are living with people, right? You're living with these people in your house. You're going to get into it with people. There's nothing inherently wrong with conflict. I always say conflict is inevitable, but losing your mind and losing your shit is optional. You don't have to lose it when conflict arises. If you learn how to embrace it, you learn how to see it as a normal part of life and the human experience, then you're going to be in a much better position to handle it and tackle it and be less likely to fight against it or to run away from it or to freeze in your tracks. Those are the typical reactions to conflict when it comes up. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is to self-regulate. You're going to need to calm yourself down, and you're going to need to get curious. When you can change your mindset from being afraid or being furious, right? Or that it's happening again, getting resentful maybe, getting curious is really going to help you lean in and explore exactly what's going on. And a lot of parents will take this note and say, well, I go in and I ask my kids what's going on, but they ask what's going on in a very angry, upset kind of tone because they haven't self-regulated first. Okay, so step number 2 is going to be to offer empathy to your child or to your multiple kids who are in the middle of the conflict. The key ingredient to resolving any conflict, any conflict resolution program will tell you the key ingredient is going to be empathy. So when people feel seen, they can feel soothed and they can move on and find great solutions. But it has to start with being seen and feeling like they are understood first, okay? And it's less important that you get in there and make your perspective known. It's more important as far as resolving a conflict to make your kids feel really understood. Okay, so the third step is going to be asking your child or your kids who are in the conflict to share their perspective of the conflict. Really get curious, ask them what's going on. How did they see it? Maybe you've got 2 or 3 kids who have 3 entirely different perspectives. This is what police officers do all the time. They ask people what they saw. You have one situation with, one set of what actually happened, right? Like the facts. Ask 3 different people what they saw, and they're going to tell you 3 different stories, 3 different perspectives. It's really important that you get their perspective and that they feel seen in that and understood. And then step number 4 is going to be to ask your child to take the other person's perspective. You're not going to be able to do this in the heat of the moment, okay? This is going to be once you're actually in a mode where things have calmed down, you're actually able to unpack things and resolve the conflict. So asking your child to take the other person's perspective is a great exercise in developing their emotional intelligence and their problem-solving skills for later on in their life. That's step number 4. Number 5 is going to be inviting your kids in to find a peaceful and maybe not fair, but a kind resolution to the conflict. And the more you can invite your children in to be part of the process, the more they will buy into the resolution and the solution, and they will, what's the word I'm looking for? Embody and digest and integrate is the word, integrate the solution that they come up with into their lives, and you're more likely to get less conflict of the same conflict going forward, and you're more likely to be developing conflict resolution skills in them for the future. Now, when we invite our kids in to this as the last step, keep in mind 2 things. Number 1, it's like asking your kids who hate vegetables to actually grow their own vegetables or help prepare dinner, and they're more likely to eat the food that they prepare. So I want you to understand that's why it's important. And the second thing that I want you to know is that whatever solution they come up with should be still with your involvement. It should be with your participation and certainly with your blessing. If they come up with a resolution or a solution that is not okay with you, it's not an okay resolution. It's not an okay solution. So depending on the age of your child or your kids, you can hand over more and more of the reins to them. And you're going to always have to check in with yourself, being mindful to not be projecting your old story onto what's going on now, or your old fear or your old habit onto what's going on now, so that your kids can be living out their own conflict resolution experience and not replaying yours. That's the game in parenting, is to not replay the stuff that was unresolved from your childhood and to let your kids have their own childhood. We get one shot at parenthood, or at least parenting each child, and our kids get one shot at childhood, and I want to help you make it count. So I hope this was helpful. I hope that you guys are hanging in there. And if you like this video, please just let me know and check out the links below for more information. I will talk to you soon. Bye.